I'm super excited to be introducing Claire Bloomfield, Deputy Director from the Centre for Improving Data Collaboration, NHSX. Claire was also formerly the Chief Executive Officer for the National Consortium of Intelligent Medical Imaging, having spent over 10 years within the University of Oxford. Now, Claire is currently leading the cross-organizational program of work on Find, Recruit, and Follow-up, which I know the audience are super keen to hear about today. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Claire Bloomfield.
Thank you, Ben. I don't think I've got my magic wand in my bag with me today, but I will do my best to give you a bit of a sense of what we're hoping to do over the next year or so, and then subsequently with SR in terms of investments to support some of the wish lists we've heard. And my talk is really shifting from where we've been and some of the opportunities that Lucy and William have referenced to think about how we might convert that into practical steps. So where do we go next? What might that look like? And how do we bring that you with us and really deliver on things that we've heard you say you need from us? I don't really need to lay out some of the context because it's been beautifully done for me already this morning. We've also heard around the life sciences vision and the missions that Ben alluded to around cancer, cardiovascular disease, and that being a core focus. FRF, or Find, Recruit, and Follow-up, is also referenced within that document, as well as within the vision for the future of clinical research delivery and the implementation plans. But it names it, but it doesn't really tell you what's in the tin. So I'm hoping to give you a little bit more of a sense of what are we aiming to do, how is it going to help you, and what's coming next. Find, Recruit, and Follow-up is around supporting the objective to harness the potential of the UK's unique health data offer, which again, Ben said data was the key, so hopefully we're headed in the right direction, to make the UK a world-leading destination for cutting-edge life sciences R&D. And we're supporting that not just through support around Find, Recruit, and Follow-up, but also around linkage and the breadth of at-scale health data sets for research, and making it easier for people to access those securely and use and analyze those in environments like trusted research environments. And we're investing in NHS Digital's TRE to enable that, particularly around the GP Data for Planning Research programme. The goals this year, we've got a targeted investment with some of our key stakeholders, is to improve for data users to get an enhanced, more positive experience in regards to use of data services, for more clinical trialists to have access to the existing infrastructure in digitrials, and as we've heard through a range of the speakers, that a wider cohort of the UK population will be able to be offered the opportunity to take part in research that meets their needs and makes them feel like they're actively engaged. We're also aiming to support some of those tricky steps around the negotiations and the process and contractual steps that can be challenging and slow down the process of getting the research set up and then delivered so that we can push forward to those better outcomes Lucy referenced. What does that mean for you? Well, we're hoping that through Find, Recruit, and Follow-up, we can increase the speed and efficiency of clinical research studies, streamlining the existing processes and making it easier for you to navigate through the systems. We want to increase recruitment, not only to time and to target, but the diversity and inclusivity for research participants in studies, so we're generating solutions that actually work for people in practice. Ben alluded to innovative and pragmatic designs of studies, so being more creative in the way we deliver trials and studies, reflecting the different needs across AI, devices, pharma, and increasing those cohorts to improve access to research overall. So Find, Recruit, and Follow-up should enable those components to be delivered through targeted components, through creating and launching centralized data-enabled services through NHS Digital, enhancing the channels to approach participants to be involved in research, and with the HRA and MHRA looking at data protection legislation and the guidance that's needed to make sure that patients' expectations are met, but also we can bring clinicians and patients and the public with us in a trusting, supportive, co-creating environment. We then want to make sure that those follow-up studies are happening and that broader, more nuanced safety data is incorporated from the patient's care records, and that we support this bringing enhanced services and support and bringing the whole system together so that it's easier for you as groups and organisations to engage in those processes, and that you can feel confident that the UK is the right place to place your studies. In this year, and we've had collaboration, so I'm really glad that I included it on my slide again, we're working with NHS Digital, the CRN, and HRA in a partnership of working across the ecosystem to enhance some of their existing offerings. And NHSX is providing backbone support to bring those stakeholders together. It's pilot funding this year. This isn't setting us up for the long-term future, but we're looking to pilot some specific MVPs to enable us to test out where the key pinch points are. With NHS Digital, we're working on the DigiTrials program. With the CRN, you'll hear more about the support services this afternoon in one of the breakouts and how we can make that self-service and support feasibility studies using more data-driven insights. And the HRA providing a wrapper around that to ensure that we are learning from COVID and embedding those research governance practices and speed in terms of how we approach setup. DigiTrials is one of the key core components. We've heard about recovery, we've heard about the impact of digitally enabled trials. Within this year, we're supporting them in expanding their feasibility, identification, communication, and outcomes programs to enable specific studies which will benefit from large national data sets to be accessible for supporting not only COVID, but also non-COVID research. And with the CRN, I won't go into this in too much detail because there's a breakout on it this afternoon, but really thinking about how there is advice and guidance on accessing the data services through DigiTrials, through CPRD Sprint, as early routes to help navigate through the system to make it easier, quicker, and more efficient. We're hoping that these will deliver further impact, the likes of which we've seen with the Orion study. Many of you have seen and will have heard of this story and the conversion rate to bringing inclisiran, and you'll have to apologize me if I've said that wrong, not a cardiovascular doc, into the NHS for specific patient populations. The study was set up 3 years ago now, and it was relied on that ability to access large cohorts of patients on a national level and support the appropriate identification and inclusion into that study. Recently, this year, we've also seen that launching with GRAIL for patients that, well, I shouldn't say patients, participants who do not have cancer, are over 50, that might be suitable for being involved in these sorts of studies, and to have a national campaign to invite them to be part of that study. It requires data, it requires national data, and it requires join-up between HRA, between NHS Digital, between CRN to enable these sorts of studies to happen. And they will have huge impact if we can convert these studies then into not only individual pilots, but a program of work that this community can access at scale. These are just a few examples of what we're doing now. The goal is that we bring together more of the stakeholders in this ecosystem so that we collaborate effectively to make it as easy as possible for you to engage with us collaboratively to deliver more impact over the next few years. I've whipped through this because I really wanted to hear from you as to what does this mean for you, what do we think FRF should look like in coming years, and how can we work with you to deliver the most impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. And the questions are coming in thick and fast, actually. So quite a lot of detailed question, and I knew this one would generate a lot of questions. So I'm going to go through to the audience questions first. So a comment here, I love the idea, but how will Find, Recruit, and Follow really work without GP-coded data?
Well, I don't think the only data sets we need are GP data, but the GP data will be coming, though obviously on a longer time horizon than we might have anticipated. Rightly, though, because we're now in a listening exercise in terms of how we engage patients and the public to ensure we have trust about the collection of that data. We have NCRAS, we have the registries data moving in from PHE that's just happening right now. It's not the only things we need, but we do need to pull those more together and as quickly as we can do. So it's coming, I think.
Thank you, Claire. And how can the NIHR and NHSX support DCT, decentralized trials, more with data collaboration?
I'm going to take data collaboration in terms of data partnerships. This speaks to actually another of the investments we're planning in our portfolio, which is launching in the next week, so you can hear about it slightly earlier. We're planning some investments into the integrated care systems to test out real-world data trusted research environments. So looking at regional, remote monitoring, real-world data sets to enable virtual trials, to enable AI-driven trials, where national data sets won't be the only thing you need. So we're aiming to support a suite of different types of investments so that you can either work nationally or subnationally to deliver the type of study that's required. And I think those will drive the right kinds of data collaborations.
And just adding to that point, though, Claire, a lot of people might think this is find, recruit, follow is a kind of one-size-fits-all, but it isn't. And if you can just expand on what that means, it's a toolkit, really, isn't it?
Yeah, so what we're hoping to do subsequent to SR is to support enhanced navigation and signposting into where the right place to go for the right kind of study. And that varies hugely, and the CRN has an awful lot of the expertise to help with that signposting, but we can enhance that by coupling up data sets around capability, capacity, inclusion, exclusion criteria, and that DigiTrials will be the right thing for certain trials, but it will absolutely not be the right thing for all trials, and we need that multiplicity of solutions, but we need to make it easy to know where to go to get to the right place as quickly as possible.
Because a lot of industry colleagues around the room have asked me, and Ben, you mentioned, what are we doing with the registry? What are we doing with different data sets? So one is about the pull of people who are interested in research, and the other one is about the push, where we know where people are and we reach out to them to approach them for research. So it's that balance.
And as you say, you need different approaches for different parts of the problem. I've flagged Be Part of Research on that last slide. They are critical to the FRF ecosystem. So as I said, there's initial investments with some core partners now, but we really do see it as end-to-end delivering on various components of the clinical research delivery plan across Agenda 2 and 3, if you're that into the specifics, to support linking all of the partners up. So this piece around collaboration, we want to try and be some of the glue that pulls people together and supports that so we can all put the money in the right places to develop a system that looks as seamless as possible.
Thank you. Okay, how do we encourage patients and participants to trust data?
It's a really good question, and if somebody's got an easy answer for me, if they'd like to come and join us, that would be fantastic. It's a flippant response, but it's tough, but I think it's critical. And I think we've heard examples today of how important it is to bring patients and the public directly into the process. It's not an afterthought. I think we can do more, I think we can do better. I've spent time as a direct researcher loving talking to people about what we're doing and inspiring and motivating, but it's linking up to saying, what's the impact that matters for you? Why does your data matter? How does your data actually specifically feel critical? And what does it do that somebody else's data can't replace? So digital inclusivity and actually everybody's data matters, and people feeling like they want to engage in the way we saw with the vaccine registry, I think is going to be critical.
And there's a question around timelines.
Yep. When?
When?
So we're 6 months into the first single year's worth of funding. I actually joined NHSX only 2 months ago, so we're bedding in at the moment. We've got pilots underway with DigiTrials at the moment. The MVP with the CRN is also underway and live about linking up to CPRD and DigiTrials. As an end-to-end service, I don't think you'll see it as a separate signposting, it's just that glue. So it exists now. Will it scale and get bigger? Yes. So now, I guess, is my answer.
And some of the comments, there's more comments here rather than questions, saying this is a very ambitious program. Do you see it being appropriately funded and widely available?
Well, I will definitely always make the case for more money helps, so if anybody wants to lobby for SR, then feel free to do so. A lot of the investments are sat with individual delivery partners, and as I say, some of this is just gluing those pieces together. So it's not as expensive as it might seem, because some of this is technically challenging but not impossible or expensive. It's more about linking up. So it's ambitious, but I think, and I joked to you about it, it's cat herding us all collectively in the right direction we need to head in. And that's challenging work, but it's not necessarily the most expensive work.
But this is where the future is.
Yep.
This is where the future is. Well, thank you so much, Claire, for your time today. Please welcome you.